Okay. Wow. Oh, I didn't realize. Yud Aleph, where are we? Yud Aleph Amud. No. Yud Aleph Amud Beis, yeah.
We're in the completion of the cycle. Hashem Echad.
Yud Aleph. B'yayim Ashtayasar. Yud Aleph Amud Beis. We are up to the top, somewhere close to the top of the page. Let's see. Okay, the line starts Benafshe. The Kamishtabach Benafshe, there's 2 dots. You see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 17 lines from the top. The line starts Benafshe. By Yomim Ahem Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh. Okay. The Gemara is now interpreting the Megillah. Let's remember. Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh Hu Achashverosh HaMelech Me'eduvat Kosheva V'Esrim U'Meya Medina. So earlier, Daf Yud Yud Aleph, he discussed what's Vayihi, what's Bimei, what's Achashverosh, what's Hu Achashverosh, what's HaMelech, what's Hoidu, what's Kush, what's Sheva V'Esrim Me'ya Medina. We're done with the first pasuk, and he explained mamash every word. Now, next line. Bayamim ha'heim, in those days, Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh Al Kisei Malchusoi Asher B'Shoshan Abira. In those days, as the king sat on the throne in the capital, Kesheves HaMelech Bayamim Kesheves HaMelech Al Kisei Malchusoi Asher B'Shoshan Abira. That's the second pasuk. He was sitting on his throne in Shushan, the capital. What's the next pasuk? B'shnas shalosh l'malchai. In the 3rd year of his reign, asa mishta l'chol sarav avadav. He makes a feast for all of his ministers, all of his servants. Chel parasu madai, the troops and the people of valor of Persia and Madai. Hapartimim v'sari amedinas l'fanov, bahares l'fanov. He displays his glory, his richness, his honor for 180 days. Remember, 180 days is a half a year. So this is a feast that goes on for 180 days. I don't know if you've ever had a party that continued for a half a year. Even those who are party animals. Always dreaming. Okay. See, here's a problem. In terms of history, something is strange. It says, "Vahi b'mei Achashverosh HaMelech, Bayamim ha'hem Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh." In those days, when he sat on the throne, I would say, when is that? When he became a king. When do you sit on your throne? When you become a king. But then, b'shnas shalosh l'malchai, in the 3rd year of his reign. 1 second. What, he didn't sit on his throne for 2 years, for 3 years. So there's something strange. He could have said, in the 3rd year of Achashverosh's kingship, he made a party. It doesn't say that. It says, in the days of Achashverosh, when he sat on his throne, in the 3rd year, he made a party. Why wasn't he sitting on his throne the first 2 years? What was happening? He wasn't sitting on his throne. They didn't give him a throne. He was a king without a throne. You see the problem in the pasuk? When he sat on his throne, in the 3rd year, he made a party. If you tell me he sat on his throne, and then 2 years later he made a party, fine. It doesn't say that. Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh, as he sat on his throne. Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh, as he sat on his throne. B'Shushan Abira, B'shnas Shalosh L'malcha, in the 3rd year. You don't sit on the throne in the 3rd year. So the Gemara says, Bayamim Kesheves HaMelech, Uksiv Basrei, B'shnas Shalosh L'malcha. The next pasuk Gibel says in the 3rd year. So what is happening? It seems like the party happened when he ascended the throne. But then a moment later it says the party happened only later. So this is the issue. Amarave my Kesheves la'achar shenesyah shvadaita. You're translating the word Kesheves wrong. We translated it Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh Hu Achashverosh Bayamim ha'hem Kesheves HaMelech Achashverosh Al Kisei Malchusi. As the king sat on the throne, in the 3rd year he made a party. And the question is, he sat on the throne already in the beginning. So Keshevas doesn't mean when he physically sat on the throne. It means when his mind sat on the throne, meaning he was calm, he was serene. You can be a king, but you are confused, you're afraid, you're conscientious, you're having anxiety. Nisyashvadaita means anxiety-free. That's when he makes the party. When did this serenity come in? Not right away. B'shnas shalosh l'malchai. So kesheves means when he finally settled into the throne comfortably. It's an emotional state. It's not a physical state. You could sit on a throne, but be anxious. He settled in comfortably. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's the question. So the Megillah wants you to know that there was a problem. And he needed respite. He needed serenity. Menuchas hanefesh. He needed settlement. What was it? So the Gemara says, Amar. Achashverosh said to himself, Balshazzar, we'll soon see who Balshazzar was. Chishev v'tah. He made a calculation and he erred. Anochashivne v'loitayinam. I will make a calculation and I will not err. Okay, now we must have a brief but critical historical introduction to be able to understand the entire next page in Gemara. And for this, we have to understand how Jewish history evolved during this time. We're going to discuss now the reign of the Babylonian Empire and finally the reign of the Persian Empire. Okay. The first king of the Jewish people was Shaul. Listen carefully so you'll understand the perspective. Shaul dies. He gets killed. He kills himself. And the next king, of course, is David. David dies, and the next king is Shlomo. Shlomo is considered number 15 in the dynasty of royalty when you start with Yehuda all the way. And it's like the moon on the 15th day, which is complete. After that, the moon starts waning. Shlomo dies, his son is Rechavam, he takes over. But then the kingdom splits and it declines. The power of the Jewish people declines and declines. And it goes another 15 generations until the end, and that's when the moon disappears. The idea then is that the kings of Beis David go into hibernation until Mashiach comes. Like the moon, after 15 days, from the 15th day, it disappears, and you wait for Rosh Chodesh, which is why we say David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam in Kiddush Levana. It's not a coincidence. We're looking for something to say outdoors, so we say David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, but it's rather the process of the moon. The beginning of the end starts with King Yoshiyahu. King Yoshiyahu is one of the last kings of the Jewish people. He is killed by Egypt, by Paro in Egypt. He's killed. Yoshiyahu doesn't want to let Egypt come through Eretz Yisrael. There's a war. 300 arrows are shot at Yoshiyahu, and he dies. Yoshiyahu was considered one of the greatest tzaddikim in the history of Jewish kings. The Pasuk says there was nobody like him. He created the first Tshuva movement, Yoshiyahu. Yoshiyahu dies. He's succeeded by his son Yehoiachaz. After 3 months, Yehoiachaz is taken into exile by Egypt, by Paro, and he dies. Yehoiachaz is succeeded by his son Yehoiakim. Yehoiakim is, the best way to describe him is if you know a little bit about Roman history. What Caligula was for Rome, Yehoiakim was for the Jewish people. Caligula, for those who don't know, was the maddest, craziest, most heinous, repulsive, disgusting, meshugana, ruthless, bloody tyrant. That was Yehoiakim in the Jewish world. To the point that the Pasuk, the Tanakh says that the abominations of Yehoiakim are already recorded in world history. Just to give you a little taste, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin Daf Kuv Gimel, Yehoiakim said, nobody really knew how to insult God. I'm the first one. And what did he do? He tattooed Hashem's name on his bris. Just to describe to you the levels of depravity. Hashem's, the Shema Meforish, he had tattooed on his bris. He was, I don't want to say a character, but he was a nutjob, together with a really, really ambitious and crazy, disgusting man, Yehoiakim. Yirmiyah told him he will be buried like a donkey, Yirmiyah Hanavi. Anyway, Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian emperor, suddenly gains power. Till that time, Assyria, which is northern Iraq, Turkey area, Nineveh, was one of the world powers. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar is living in Iraq, in Babylonia. He expands the Babylonian Empire. The first year of reign, he defeats the Assyrian Empire. Second year, he comes to Judea, to Eretz Yisrael, and he subjugates Yehoiakim. But he lets Yehoiakim live, as long as he's under his rule. As long as he's under his rule, Yehoiakim is fine. Yehoiakim keeps the promise for 3 years. After 3 years, Yehoiakim revolts against Nebuchadnezzar. For 3 years, the revolt continues. The fourth year, Nebuchadnezzar loses patience. He comes to Jerusalem, and he kills Yehoiakim. It's a torturous death. Schleps him around all the streets. That's what Yirmiyah said, you'll be buried like a donkey. And his skull actually is discovered a few hundred years later in the time of the Shas. They discover Yehoiakim's skull. Separate story. Nebuchadnezzar now killed Yehoiakim, who revolted against him. And he appoints Yehoiakim's son as the new king, a man named Yechanya Melech Yehuda. Yehoiachin Yechanya. Comes back to Babylonia, and the advisors tell him, Nebuchadnezzar, in their words, Rashi quotes it in the Gemara, from a horrible dog, you're never going to get a good cub. In other words, how can you do this to yourself? How can you do this to yourself? Nebuchadnezzar goes back, and he takes Yechanya, arrests him, and exiles him to Babylonia with some of the greatest sages of the Jewish people. You read it every year in the Megillah. Ish Yehudi haya b'shushna b'Yishmai Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish ish Yemini Asher Hagla Mirushalayim, right? Im Yechanya Melech Yehuda Asher Hagla Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bavel. This is not the Churban Beis Hamikdash. This is the first exile years before the Churban. He was not happy that Yehoiachin is Yehoiakim's son because this was his enemy. He took Yechanya, sent him to exile. Mordechai went to exile then. The king went to exile. Yechanya he put in prison. And that's when the Jewish community in Babylonia was built, because he got the great sages. There were prophets who went. HaChoresh v'Hamasker. He took creme de la creme out of Jerusalem, and he brought them to Babylonia. Yeah. Yeah. Mordechai was one of those exiles. Mordechai was from Yerushalayim. He wasn't a Babylonian. No. Mordechai was the head of the Sanhedrin.
It was like how many years before the Churban?
11. 11 years before the Churban. He appoints a new king. Yechanya is in prison, and he appoints Yechanya's uncle as the new king, a man named Tzidkiyahu. Tzidkiyahu was a brother of Yehoiakim, a brother of Yehoiachaz, a son of Yoshiyahu. In other words, he appointed Yechanya's uncle, his tati's brother. Okay? Tzidkiyahu is the new king. So again, you had Yoshiyahu was killed by the Egyptians, replaced by Yehoiachaz, who was arrested and died 3 months later. Yehoiakim is another son of Yoshiyahu, right? Who Nebuchadnezzar conquers and defeats and subjugates him. After 3 years, Yehoiakim revolts. Nebuchadnezzar kills him, appoints his son Yechanya. After a few months, he comes back, takes Yechanya to exile with a lot of the Jews, and appoints Tzidkiyahu, Yechanya's uncle. As long as Tzidkiyahu remains surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar. Now, from Yoshiyahu till the end, there's a prophet on site. His name is Yirmiyah. And he's there a whole time, and he records everything. And he always tells the kings the same message, that the Jewish people have completely lost their moral fabric, and this will not be. Babylonia is going to take over, and they should not fight Nebuchadnezzar. Tzidkiyahu does not listen. Tzidkiyahu makes a promise to Nebuchadnezzar. This is the last king. And then he does Hataras Nedarim with the Sanhedrin, and he revolts against Nebuchadnezzar. So 11 years later, Nebuchadnezzar comes back, destroys the Beis Hamikdash, burns Jerusalem, kills many of its Jews, captures Tzidkiyahu, who escaped through a tunnel, but then emerged on the other side, and Nebuchadnezzar caught him. There was a goat over there, a deer that ran into the tunnel, so they found the tunnel, and the Tzidkiyahu came out. He killed all of Tzidkiyahu's children. He blinded Tzidkiyahu, brought him to Babylonia, and had him imprisoned as a blind man. Tzidkiyahu is the last king of the Jewish people. Malchei Beis David go into hibernation, as I said, till Mashiach comes. That's it. There's never kingship. The Beis Hamikdash is gone. They're in Babylonia. They'll come back later, but under Persian rule, and then under Greek rule, and then under HashmonaI rule, Levi, and then under Roman rule. And that's it. They never come back. Tzidkiyahu is the last king.
Where's Yirmiyah now?
Yirmiyah is in Eretz Yisrael throughout, but most of the kings hate him. They feel, the expression, kill the messenger? Kill the messenger? Yehoyakim, who had him arrested. They had Yirmiyahu in quicksand. They had him in prison. Yirmiyahu almost died many, many times. But there was people who protected him, and he was saved ultimately.
And Nebuchadnezzar had Rahman
Nebuchadnezzar knew that Yirmiyahu did not want the war. And how Yirmiyahu ended his life is not clear. He went to Egypt. Some say the Jews in Egypt killed Yirmiyahu. But that's not clear in the Tanakh, how Yirmiyahu died. Now, this is in terms of the history. So the Babylonian Empire begins with Nebuchadnezzar. There were earlier Babylonian empires. You have Nimrod, but we're talking about that particular one. He defeats Assyria, and he's a king. He's a king for 45 years, Nebuchadnezzar. And he's a king you don't want to mess with. He's a very mighty, ferocious, powerful people. As the Gemara says, Daniel compared him to a lion. When Nebuchadnezzar dies, he's succeeded by Evil Merodach. Evil Merodach is a king for 23 years. When he dies, he's succeeded by a man named Belshazzar, who's a king for 3 years. 45 years, 23 years, and 3 years. Belshazzar is the third monarch in the Babylonian Empire. Belshazzar knows that God told Yirmiyah, and he believes him, that in 70 years, the Jews are going to come back from Bavel. They're going to rebuild. Belshazzar keeps an eye on the years. 70 years pass. Belshazzar says it didn't happen. Either Yirmiyah was wrong or God was wrong. I'm the ruler. He throws a major party, and he takes out all the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash that he got from Nebuchadnezzar, the first emperor who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, and he celebrates with all the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash. In middle of the party, this is recorded in Daniel, the book of Daniel, in Aramaic. In middle of the party, there's an expression in English, the writing on the wall, that comes from Daniel. He sees a finger writing on the wall. Lahavdil, there's a famous Rembrandt art of this scene, if you know Rembrandt's work. He sees the writing on the wall, but he can't read it. It's not his language. They bring in Daniel, who is a Jew who was exiled in the first exile. You remember we spoke about Yechoniah's exile, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. They took the best of the Jews, talented kids. And Daniel was a brilliant man. He became an advisor to the Babylonian palace. And Daniel says, yes, God is basically saying that the Babylonian Empire's time is up. It's up, you're done. Belshazzar can't sleep that night. He can't sleep that night, so he needs to take a walk. He goes out, and he tells the 2 guards, nobody should be allowed into the palace because there could be somebody who wants to assassinate me, because God said the Babylonian Empire is up, and God chastises him for using the Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash. And even if somebody comes and says he's the king, don't let him in, because he's lying. He comes back, and he says, I'm the king. They don't let him in, and they kill him. They seized the opportunity. Who takes over? One of the murderers, who was Daryavesh, who becomes the first Persian emperor. Now, the Persians were defeated by the Babylonians. But now, finally, Daryavesh takes over the kingdom, and he becomes the first Persian emperor instead of Babylonia. Okay. Daryavesh is a king for 2 years. He dies. He's taken over by Cyrus, the second Persian emperor. Cyrus gives Jews permission to go back and build the Beis Hamikdash, but then he takes back the permission because the Samaritans in the Holy Land say this is not good, the Jews are making problems, so he stops it. Cyrus is a king for 3 years, and he is succeeded by our good friend and comrade Achashverosh. Achashverosh is a king for 14 years. The story with Haman happens in the 12th year. It says in the Megillah, in the 12th year, that's when he issues forth the edict. A year later, the Jews defend themselves. It's the 13th year. A year later, Esther makes the Yom Tov for all of Jews. That year, her husband died. They had a baby in between. His name was Daryavish. Daryavish takes over his Gentile father and Jewish mother. Daryavish, and he, who's really a Jewish kid, gives the Jews permission to go up and rebuild the second Beis HaMikdash. That's what happens. This is basically, very briefly, how the dynasty works. So you have 3 in the Babylonian Empire, and then you have the Persian Empire. One day the Persians will yet be defeated by the Greeks, but we're not holding there yet. Alexander the Great would come and ultimately say goodbye to the Persian Empire, and the Greek Empire would take over. The Greeks would be defeated by the Romans, and then the Roman Empire would wane. But this is the process of history. At this point, when Purim happens, it's the transition from the Babylonian emperor to the Greek emperor, to the Persian. Achashverosh, therefore, for 2 years, doesn't have serenity. Why? He knows what happened to Belshazzar. He is very worried. The 3rd year, Achashverosh is calm. Kisheves Hamelech Achashverosh. What happened? He said Belshazzar was a fool. He made a bad mistake. I will not repeat the mistake of Belshazzar. I am in a different league. I got it. What's the mistake Belshazzar made? Belshazzar made the mistake when the 70 years that God promised Yirmiyah will be the deadline of Golus and the beginning of Geula, when they come to an end. So now let's see what the Gemara says. Mahi, what's the mistake that Belshazzar made? It's clear? Clear. The Ksiv, the Pasuk says, Yirmiyah Perik Chavtes. Hashem tells Yirmiyah, Kilefi Meloyis Labavel Shivim Shana Efkoid Eschem. When Bavel reaches 70 years, when the time of 70 years fills up for Bavel, the number 70, I will remember you. I will remember you. Efkoid Eschem, I will remember you. The next pasuk, many are not Geiris. They're Geiris it later, so I'm going to skip it. Comes Belshazzar and says, okay, 70 years. From when? From when? It says Lebavel. Oh, obviously it's from the year that Babylonia defeated Assyria. When Nebuchadnezzar defeated the last king of Assyria. Who was the last king of Assyria? A man named Esar Chadoin. He was a son of Sancheriv, the famous Sancheriv. They lived in Nineveh, Assyria. Nebuchadnezzar defeated Esar Chadoin and became the ruler of the region. That's from when you start counting 70 years. So Chashoiv Arbayim v'Chomesh Nebuchadnezzar, count 45 years Nebuchadnezzar. Esher Mutlas the Evel Meroidach, 23 years of Evel Meroidach, the second king, V'Tarte Didei, and 2 of his own, Belshazzar. So what do we have? We have 45 plus 23 is 68, plus 2 of Belshazzar is 70 years. Ha Shivim, 70 years from when Bavel became an empire, when Nebuchadnezzar gained power. Suddenly, it's 70 years. Belshazzar is a king for 2 years already. Nebuchadnezzar 45, Evel Meroidach 23, and no redemption. Apik money de Bei Makdash v'Ishtamish b'hu. He takes out the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, which Nebuchadnezzar stole from the Holy Temple, and he uses them during a party that he makes for all of the ministers in his government. Because the 70 years are up, he is excited. The party wasn't only for this. The party was, he was fighting the Persians and he kept on winning. They could not defeat him. But at this party, he takes out the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash because he knows that the Jews will not be redeemed. That's the mistake Belshazzar makes, and Achashverosh is telling himself, I'm not going to repeat this error. So the Gemara now analyzes this detail. How do we know Nebuchadnezzar reigned for 45 years? The Omar Mar, the master said, meaning one of the earlier sages said, don't get confused by the words now, Galu b'Sheva. The Jews were exiled in the year 7. Galu b'Shmoina, they were exiled in the year 8. Galu b'Shmoina Esrei, they were exiled in the year 18. Galu b'Tsha'asrei, they were exiled in the year 19. What does this mean? If we read through the Tanakh, if you read through Sefer Yirmiyah, you will see, sometimes it says Jews were exiled in the year 7, sometimes it says the year 8, sometimes the year 18, sometimes the year 19. Seems like a contradiction. So the master explained there's no contradiction, you have to know what you're counting. Galu b'Sheva, l'kibush Yehoyakim, galus Yehoyachim. in the 7th year of Nebuchadnezzar conquering Yehoiakim, that was the first exile. 7 years after Nebuchadnezzar defeated and conquered Judea and Yehoiakim, this was the first exile. Which exile? It's called Galus Yehoiachin. Remember the first exile? Yechanya, the king, was exiled with a lot of Jews to Babylonia. He was arrested. He remained in prison. This is the first exile. When does it happen? 7 years after Nebuchadnezzar conquered Yehoiakim. The way it happened was Nebuchadnezzar became a king. The first year he defeated Assyria. The second year he came to Eretz Yisrael and defeated Yehoiakim. Mamash the second year. 3 years Yehoiakim was subjugated to him. 3 years Yehoiakim rebelled against him. And the next year Nebuchadnezzar went and killed Yehoiakim and exiled and appointed Yechanya, and then decided not to have Yechanya, and he exiled them all to Babylonia. So that's why it says Sheva. 7 years after Yehoiakim was under Nebuchadnezzar, the first exile happens. What's Shmoina? Shehi Shmoina Nebuchadnezzar. It's the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, because Nebuchadnezzar conquers Yehoiakim in the 2nd year of his reign. And 7 years later is the first exile, so it's the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar, 7 years after he conquered Yehoiakim. Golu b'Shmoina Esrei, L'kibush Yehoiakim as Golus Tzidkiyo Sheitcha Esther Nebuchadnezzar. Now you'll understand 1819. 1819 is talking about a different Golus. It's the Golus that happened 11 years later. So it's year 18 after he conquered Yehoiakim. It's year 19 after he went up to his throne. The Churban Beis HaMikdash happened 19 years into the Nebuchadnezzar's reign. The first Galus happened 8 years into his reign. The second Galus happened 11 years later, 19 years into Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Which year are we talking about? Churban Beis HaMikdash is always placed at the year 3338. Very easy to remember. Gimel Shin Lamed Ches. The year when Shilach, God sent the Jewish people away. 3338, 3,338 years since creation. Now is 5780. This is 3338. It's 19 years from when Nebuchadnezzar became a king. Nebuchadnezzar became a king in the year 3319. 3319. Almost 20 years later, 19 years later, 3338, he destroys the Beis HaMikdash. He's going to be still a king for a long time. He's going to be a king for 45 years. He's going to be a king way after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Then he will be replaced by Evel Meroidach, then by Belshazzar, then by Daryavish, then by Koresh, then by Achashverosh.
How many years?
Huh? You want to know the years? You'll need a pen. I'll give you the years. Nebuchadnezzar becomes a king 3319 since creation. Churban Beis HaMikdash happens 19 years later, 3338. The secular calendar, it's 586 before the Common Era, BCE. The Jewish calendar, there's a discrepancy there. It's 423, I believe, BCE. 423. There's a big discrepancy there, 150 years. It's a whole separate sugya. It's a complicated issue. Huh? The Neil, what happened? Yeah. But it's in the secular calendar, 586 is always the date of Churban Beis HaMikdash. 586 BCE. Now is 2020 CE. We're talking BCE. You have to go to 0 and then you got to go backwards. BCE means the secular calendar starts at 0. Apparently that's the year when Isai Ha'ish was born. That's when they started their calendar. Okay? Churban Bar Sheni happened 70 after the Common Era. 70 years after 0. Huh? They have AD, which I usually don't use because it's a religious symbol. So this is before, okay? So Nebuchadnezzar becomes a king 3319. Beis HaMikdash is destroyed 3338. Nebuchadnezzar dies 3363. 3363. Evel Meroidach dies 3386. Belshazzar dies 3389. He's a king for a short time, 3389. He's killed. Daryavish is only a king 2 years. He dies 3390. Cyrus dies 3393. Achashverosh becomes the king 3393. That's the year Achashverosh becomes the king. 3393, and he dies 3407 from creation. 3407, Achashverosh is gone. He's replaced by his Jewish boy, Daryavish, becomes the king 3407, and he's a king for 34 years. He dies 3442, and this time the second Beis Hamikdash is built and completed. During his father's reign, Achashverosh, the Beis Hamikdash was not completed because the permission was not there. It was given by Cyrus, but then it was taken away. So Achashverosh, in his 14 years, the Beis Hamikdash is not built. Right? Chazal say when he told Esther, Ad Chatzi HaMalchus, I'll give you half the kingdom. One of the interpretations is, don't ask me for the Beis Hamikdash. Chatzi HaMalchus, yeah, but that's it. Don't ask me to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. I have enough issues with the Jews. Huh? Daryavish, who's Achashverosh's son. Esther's son too. That's the son. He's really a Jewish boy. He's not seen that way because he's the Persian emperor. But those who know the inside story know that he's a Jewish boy. And he gives his brothers permission to build the Beis HaMikdash. So the story of Purim happens between 3393 and 3407. And that's not a long time after Churban Bayis Rishon. Remember, Churban Bayis Rishon was 3338. So this is just a few decades later. That's when the whole story of Achashverosh happens. The Jews are in exile under Persia. First they were under Babylonia, now they're under Persia. You understand? It's nice to see the full picture, no? Huh?
Yes. The Kalim that
Belshazzar took out.
And then, so those were the same Kalim
That his,
that
Nebuchadnezzar
used.
Oh, one second. The Omar Mar, the master, said, Shana Rishayna Kibush Ninveh, Shnia Kibush Yehoyakim. First year Nebuchadnezzar conquered Ninveh, first year of his reign. This was his anniversary present for his wife, I guess. And the second year he conquered Yehoyakim. If the second year he conquered Yehoyakim, so now, 7 years later, when he makes the first exile of Yechanya, it's the 8th year of his reign. 11 years later, when he destroys the Beis HaMikdash, it's the 19th year of his reign. The Gemara says, Uksiv, and the Pasuk says in Yirmiyah 52, Vayihi b'shloishim v'sheva shana l'golus Yehoyachin. 37 years since the exile of Yehoyachin, the same like Yechanya. Melech Yehuda, b'shnei Masar Chodesh in the 12th month, Adar, b'esim v'chamisha l'chodesh on the 25th day of the month, Nasa Evel Meroidach Melech Bavel es Rosh Yehoyachin Melech Yehuda v'yoytze oisei mibeis HaKalo. Evel, the king of Bavel, lifts up the head of Yechanya and takes him out of prison. 37 years, poor Yechanya Melech Yehuda was behind bars. Remember, he is the king who was the son of Yehoyakim, and they told Nebuchadnezzar, from a bad lion, a cute cub does not come out. Don't keep Yechanya in power. That's when he exiled him and he put him in prison. 37 years later, Evil Meroidach takes him out. How can Evil Meroidach take him out? Nebuchadnezzar put him in. Obviously, Nebuchadnezzar dropped dead. And Evil Meroidach now became the new sheriff. And the first thing he did was Chaf Hei Adar. He takes out Yechanya from prison. What do we see from here? If this is the case, Tamni Uslasin V'Sheva Rabbi V'Chamish. 8 years and 37 is 45. 37 plus 8 is 45. We said that Yechanya went to exile which year of Nebuchadnezzar? 8. He was in prison for 37 years. After 37 years, he's out of prison. How long is Nebuchadnezzar a king? 45, because he wouldn't take him out of prison when Nebuchadnezzar is alive. Evil Meroidach now had the power because Nebuchadnezzar was gone. This means that's how we figured out Nebuchadnezzar was a king for 45 years. Ve'esnot las the Evil Meroidach. How do we know Evil Meroidach was a king for 23 years? Gemara. This is a tradition. V'tarte the day. Then you have 2 years of his own. Hashivin, 70. Amar, he says, in the 3rd year of his reign, Hashtavadai Sulay Mefarki, the Jews will never be redeemed. Apik mani de Makdasha v'shtamish behu. He takes out the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash and he uses them at the feast. What happens now is Hainu de Kamerle Daniel. Remember, there's the writing on the wall in the middle of the party, and Daniel comes to him, and Daniel says, Val Mare Shmaya Hisrei Mamta. You have exalted yourself on the master of the heaven. Ulamanaya di Vaise Hesiu Kadamach. And the vessels of his home you had them bring before you. Uksiv, and after that the pasuk says in Daniel chapter 5, Beiba Layla, the same night of the party, Ktil Belshazzar Malka. Belshazzar the king was murdered. Uksiv, the pasuk also says in Daniel, the next chapter, Dar Yavesh Mada'a Kabel Malchusa Kebarshnin Shitin V'tartin. The next king was the Persian emperor Dar Yavesh from Madai, and he was 62 years old when he became the king. He got the throne at the age of 62, Dar Yavesh. This was Belshazzar's error. He counted from when Nebuchadnezzar became the great Babylonian emperor, 70 years, 45, 23, 2 is 70. In the third year, he made a party, took out the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. The very same night, the man is dead, and suddenly the Persian Empire takes over. The first man is Daryavish, succeeded by Cyrus, succeeded by Achashverosh, succeeded by Daryavish, who, by the way, had also a name, Koresh. Okay? It's interesting that the Navi points out that he was 62 years old. Somehow it's important to know that Daryavish was 62. Why is that so relevant? I mean, they're not discussing the ages of the other kings, but he points out that he was 62 years old. So I was looking, I just was wondering, and I saw that in the Mesivta Gemara they bring a very interesting thing. It shows you the diuk, the meticulousness in these things that some people would not think is significant. Basically, if he was 62 at the time, it means that when Nebuchadnezzar went first into Yerushalayim and exiled Yechoniah, and he went into the Beis HaMikdash, he didn't destroy it, but he took its kalim, he went into the Eichel, that would be the year that Daryavish was born. Okay? If you go back 62 years, it would be the year Nebuchadnezzar went in to the Beis HaMikdash the first time. So basically, Babylonia had power, but the day he went into the Beis HaMikdash, the man who would defeat the Babylonian Empire was born. That's the idea that he was 62 years old. In other words, everything is orchestrated from heaven. The Babylonians are going to have their power for 3 generations, but the day that Nebuchadnezzar went into the Beis HaMikdash was also the beginning of his defeat. Daryavish was born, and 62 years later, indeed, he gets the kingship, and the Babylonian Empire is obliterated and decimated. So, Omar, first Daryavish. Omar, Achashverosh now says, Iyu mitatoi. He made a mistake. He's the problem. He made a mistake because he counted wrong. I'm not going to make this mistake. Miksiv lamalchus Bavel? God didn't tell Yirmiyah 70 years since the reign of Bavel. LeBavel ksiv. He said since Bavel. Mai LeBavel LeGolus Bavel. Doesn't mean from when Bavel became an empire. It means from the first exile that Bavel made for the Jews. So Achashverosh starts counting from the year that Yechoniah went into exile, which is 11 years before the Churban. Nu Kama B'tziran, how much would that be off? Tamne, 8 years. Because Belshazzar counted 70 years from the year Nebuchadnezzar became king. Achashverosh says he made a mistake. You have to count from when Bavel sent the Jews into the first exile. That was the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar. So Achashverosh said he made a party 8 years premature. He was 8 years premature because he thought the 70 years finished 8 years earlier. Chashiv va'ayil chilufayu. So Achashverosh makes a calculation and he adds another 8 years from when Belshazzar stopped. When did Belshazzar stop? After 2 years of his reign. Remember, 45, 23, 45 Nebuchadnezzar, 23 Evel Merodach, that's 68, right? Plus 2 of his own is 70. Achashverosh says we need another 8 years. After 8 years, we'll have the 70 years of Galus Bavel finishing. What are the other 8 years? Chada de Belshazzar, 1 more of Belshazzar. Chamesh de Daryavish v'Koresh, another 5 of his predecessors. Daryavish, the first Persian emperor. Cyrus, the second Persian emperor. V'Tarte Didei, and 2 of his own. You understand why the first 2 years Achashverosh was restless? This is the end of the story. So basically, Belshazzar counted 70 till his 2 years. Achashverosh said, "Oh, the stupid Belshazzar. He thought God meant from when Bavel's Malchus began. No, it's from when Bavel exiled the Jews, not Malchus Bavel, Galus Bavel. Ooh, so it's 8 years later. So let's add another 8 years. So he adds 1 year of Belshazzar, 5 years of his predecessors. Daryavish and Koresh is 6. 2 years of his own, 7, 8. When his 2 years are finished, and the Jews are not going anywhere. There's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no Geula, there's nothing. Achashverosh says, The coast is clear. God is done with the Jews. It's all over. Now it's really over. And now what happens? Kivan de chazi de molu shivim v'lo yifruk. 70 years have passed, they're not liberated. Omar! Hashta vadai sulai mifriki. Now for sure there's no redemption. Apik bana de bei mikdash v'shtamash buhu. At this great party that he makes, on the third year, he has all the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash in this great party of the wine. When? This is the year 3395 since creation. In the third anniversary of him coming to power, he would always make a party on the anniversary. But now it was a different level. The Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash came out. It went for 180 days. Because Belshazzar, after 2 years, he felt there's no Geula. He wasn't dead. He reigned later. He reigned a third year, and the next year he made the party with the Beis HaMikdash's Kalim. He didn't make the party the day the 2 years were over. You understand? Achashverosh also b'shnas shalosh l'malcha.
So these kings really recognize Malchus of Hashem.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. He takes out the Kalim. Bas Satan v'riked beinehen. Satan came and danced between them. Of course, this is a euphemism for immoral promiscuity. What does it mean? Bas Satan v'rakad beinehen. The Satan comes and dances in between them, which is basically a euphemism for the fact that Achashverosh wants Vashti to appear without clothes in front of everybody to show off her beauty. V'harag is Vashti, and he murders Vashti. Belshazzar died that night as well. And Vashti, who was Belshazzar's daughter, as we will see, so Vashti was really the heir to the Babylonian Empire. Nebuchadnezzar, Evil Meroidach, Belshazzar, his daughter was Vashti. Vashti, therefore, was an aristocrat. Vashti was of royal blood. And therefore, we'll soon see what Vashti told Achashverosh when he wanted her to come. And therefore, Vashti, just like her father, was killed at the party, not the first party, the second party, on the 7th day. When he finished 180 days, he made another party for the people in Shushan. On the 8th day, on the 7th day, when he was drunk, he has Vashti killed because she does not want to appear. So what happens to Belshazzar now, similarly happens to his daughter, of course, many years later, in the midst of the Persian rule of Achashverosh. Asks the Gemara, Hashaper Chashev? No, he made a good cheshbon. No, Iyunami mitatai. The boyle lemimne mechurvis Yerushalayim. He was 11 years too early. He looked at the first exile. He had to wait till the destruction of Jerusalem, which happened 11 years after Yechanya was exiled by Nebuchadnezzar. Not the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. That's when he had to start. He says, okay, got it. Soif kama b'tzira. So many years was he off? Chatzri, 11. 11 years later, he would have been right, yeah? This means 11 years later we would expect the Geula to happen. Iyu kama malach. How long did Achashverosh reign? Arbisar. 14 years. The miracle of Purim happened the 13th year of his reign, because the 12th year, Haman convinced him to make an edict. Yud Gimel Nisan, the edict comes out. Yeah? When does the miracle of Purim happen? The next year, Adar, after Rosh Hashanah. That's the 13th year of Achashverosh. Because the edict happened 12th year, before Pesach. The Yeshua happens the next Adar, the 13th year. Okay. A year later, Esther sends out letters to everybody to make it an eternal holiday. So he says, okay, if that happens, Bar Beisar Didei, in his 14th year, the Beis HaMikdash should have been built, because he was off 11 years. So he thought it was the 3rd year of his reign. So it should have been the 14th year of his reign. So in the 14th year of his reign, now it was right, the calculation. The Beis HaMikdash should be rebuilt. That's what we are thinking now. Alam Aksiv, why does the Pasuk tell us in Ezra? Beiden betelas avidas Beis Elohadi b'Yerushalayim. The work in the Beis HaMikdash in Jerusalem was obliterated until 2 years into Daryavesh. Till 2 years into Daryavesh, there was no building of the Beis HaMikdash. That means you had to wait another 2 years till Daryavesh, who took over Achashverosh. the prophecy was delayed by 2 years. Even if Achashverosh was wrong, something happened, it should have been at the end of his reign. You're forgetting how history works. When a king dies and the next king takes over, that 1 year is considered the year for both of them. It's not complete years. Nebuchadnezzar dies in the middle of a year. You're not going to say that year is not counted. It's 45 years. Evel Meroidach takes over the same year. 23 years includes a year that has both kings. Shanim Ukotayus Hava. These were partial years that you're looking at complete years. So what is he saying? Therefore, he's saying you're making a mistake here. Because Daryavesh and Cyrus reigned together, not 5 years, but 4 years. Because they shared a year. Nebuchadnezzar and Evel Meroidach, it wasn't 45 and 23, which would make it 68. It was 67, because 1 year they share. So therefore, you have to give it another 2 years. You understand? Because it's 67 between Nebuchadnezzar and Evel Meroidach, and it's 4 between Daryavesh and Koresh. So at 14 years of Achashverosh, it's not up yet. You have to wait another 2 years. When he died, and his son Daryavesh gave them permission to build the Beis HaMikdash. Tanya Nami Hachi. We learned also a brisa that supports this. V'oit shana acheres leBavel. There was another year from the 70 years for Bavel after Belshazzar. V'ama Daryavesh v'hishlima. Daryavesh ruled for a year and he completed the 70 years. In other words, according to the previous calculation, Nebuchadnezzar was 45, Evel Meroidach 23, Belshazzar 3 years. So there was 71 years from Nebuchadnezzar until the death of Belshazzar, 70 years from Yehoiakim, from when Babylonia started to rule over the Jews. But we're saying no, only 69 years passed from his conquering Yehoiakim, because we needed an extra year of Daryavesh to finish the 70 years of the rule of Babylonia. Omar Rava said, Av Daniel ta b'ay chushbana. One more man made a mistake. And this is a Jew. His name is Daniel. Diksiv. Daniel says, chapter 9. Bishnas achas lemolchai. In the first year of Daryavesh, Ani Daniel binoisi basfarim. I, Daniel, meditated. I contemplated. I thought about the numbers. Midika Omar binoisi meklal detah. When Daniel says be noisy, which means I really reviewed it, it means I made a mistake and therefore I went back and I realized that I was reading it superficially. What was Daniel's mistake? First he had one thought, he realized he made a mistake and he went back. Why? Daniel thought that the 70 years have to be counted not from Nebuchadnezzar's rule and not from the first exile, but from the day that Nebuchadnezzar came into Judea and subjugated Yehoiakim, which is 1 year after he became a ruler. When Daniel saw that those 70 years were up and the Geula didn't happen, so he thought maybe it's because of the Jewish people. And we see, I don't know if you know, but much of the text of our Slichos that we say before Rosh Hashanah and Monday and Thursday, we say Monday and Thursday by davening, comes from Daniel. It comes from Daniel chapter 9, where he speaks and he asks for the Geula to come and he prays and he davens, and then he's notified that there was not a mistake here. He made a wrong cheshbon. The cheshbon was not from when Yehoiakim was conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, but 18 years later when the Churban Beis HaMikdash happened. So there's still 18 years. Okay, so if this is the case, the Gemara finishes up and says, Mikol Makom Kashu Kroya Hadadi. We still have a problem. Ksiv Melois LeBavel, Uksiv Lecharvis Yerushalayim. It does say that the 70 years is from when Bavel gets 70 years and from when Churban Yerushalayim gets 70 years. We do have a discrepancy. Amar Rava, no. Lipkida Ba'alma. The year that Bavel conquers the Jews, God will remember the Jews. V'hainu diksiv, Kai Amar Kodesh Melech Paras, Kol Mamlachis Haaretz Nasan Li Hashem Elokei Hashemayim, V'upakad Alai Livnos Lebayis B'Yerushalayim. Remember, the second Persian emperor Cyrus said, God made me a king and he told me to build him a house in Yerushalayim. That point was 70 years, and that point God remembered the Jews. He gave permission to build Yerushalayim, but it was stopped, and the complete renovation of the Beis HaMikdash would only happen in the days of Daryavesh after Achashverosh. Let me summarize this so there's no confusion. There were 4 different calculations for 70 years. 4 different calculations. Two of them were dead wrong, Belshazzar, Achashverosh. One of them was semi-wrong, and one of them was right. Okay. The first one is Belshazzar. He says it starts when Bavel ascends to the throne. When Nebuchadnezzar becomes the king, the first year, that's when you count 70. He counts 45, 63, 45, 23, and 2 of his own, it's 70. His mistake, he had to start from the Churban of Yerushalayim, the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, not the first year of Nebuchadnezzar. In other words, he was 19 years off. He also made a mistake that he gave Nebuchadnezzar 45 years, Evel Meroidach 23 years, and really it's less because one of the year counts for both. Achashverosh also makes a mistake. What's his mistake? He's already smarter. He pushes it off by many years. He delays it. He says it starts from the Golus of Yechanya, which means not the first year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, but the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. He counts 37 years of Nebuchadnezzar because he starts at the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, so he doesn't give it 45, he gives it 37. 23 for Evel Meroidach, 3 for Belshazzar, 5 for Daryavish and Cyrus, 2 for his own, and he has 70 years. His mistake, he went too early. Instead of year 8, he had to wait for year 19. It wasn't the first exile, it was the second exile, the Churban of Yerushalayim. Again, he made another mistake that he counted what was supposed to be 1 year as 2 years. Nebuchadnezzar and Evel Meroidach and his predecessors, Daryavish and Cyrus. Third mistake, semi-mistake, Daniel. Daniel is between Achashverosh and Belshazzar. He starts the calculation from year 2 of Nebuchadnezzar, the year when Golus began, when he subjugated Judea. When Yehoiakim came under his rule, because this is the beginning of Golus. He didn't exile the Jews, not even the first exile, but this is the year he came into Eretz Yisrael, and Yehoiakim had to go under his rule. Now, he counts from the conquest of Yehoiakim 66 years for Nebuchadnezzar and Evel Meroidach. He doesn't make the mistake of 2 and 1. He knows it's only 66 years. 3 years for Belshazzar is 66, 67, 68, 69. 1 year for Daryavish until Cyrus comes up, because Daryavish and Cyrus share that second year, and he feels there is a geula. Something does happen. What happens? Cyrus gives the Jews permission to come back and rebuild Beis HaMikdash. That's why Hashem said, Efkod, I will remember you. There is a schira, there is a remembrance. But it's not the full, it's not the full geula. Because there was still a wrong cheshbon. What's the right cheshbon? The right cheshbon begins from the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Nebuchadnezzar's 19th year. It includes 49 years of Nebuchadnezzar and Evel Meroidach, 3 years of Belshazzar, so it's 49 and 3 is 52. 4 years of Daryavish and Cyrus is 53, 54, 55, 56. 14 years of Achashverosh, 1 of Daryavish the Persian. The second year of Daryavish, the Beis HaMikdash gets built. That is the authentic calculation, not from the Golus, the first Golus, not from Yehoiakim's subjugation, not from Nebuchadnezzar's beginning of his reign, but from the Churban of Jerusalem in the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. The 18th year of the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, that's when it starts. And the Gemara finishes, Dorish Ab Nachman Baruch Chizda, Maidik Siv. It says in Yeshaya 45, Koyamar Hashem le'Mashichai, le'Koirish asher hechzakti biminai. This is what God said to his anointed one, to Cyrus, whom I held onto his right hand. V'chi Koirish Mashiach chaya. Koirish is Mashiach. He was anointed by Hashem. I mean, he was a Persian emperor. He's not one of the Malchei Beis David. He's called Mashiach. Ella. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mashiach. It means this. Hashem speaks to Mashiach. And he says, Koivel ani lecha al Koirish. I'm lamenting to you about Koirish. In other words, Koyamar Hashem le'Mashiach and le'Koirish is 2 separate things. He said to his Mashiach about Koirish. And what did he say? Ani amarti hu yivne beisi v'kabetz galo yosei. I asked Koirish to rebuild my home and gather my exiles. He announced, whoever from God's nation wants to go up to Yerushalayim and build the Beis HaMikdash should do it. He did not take initiative, he did not do it himself. Rather, he asked, whoever wants can do it. He watched it happen. He did not make it happen. And this is what God was complaining to Mashiach about, that Koresh did not really take the initiative for the Jews to come up and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. He forfeited the opportunity, and he just announced whoever wants can go do it. In other words, was somewhat of slacking off.
Subcontractors. Subcontractors.
Yeah, he subcontracted it, yeah.
Somebody people want to make things happen, or they watch things happen, or they ask what happened, as the Rabbi said a couple days ago.
Right. Okay, let's just learn this piece. A few moments, yeah? A few minutes we have. Ksiv, the Megillah says, Chel paras umadai hapartimim, uksiv lemalche madai uparas. In this big party that Achashverosh makes when he takes out the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, it says, right, Asta mishta l'chol sarav avadav, Chel paras umadai hapartimim v'sari hamedinois lefanav. Uksiv lemalche madai uparas. But later it says, to the kings of Madai and Paras. What is he asking? First it says, the army of Persia and Madai, Hapartimim, are the nobles. Later it says, the kings of Madai and Paras. And the contradiction here is, in the beginning of the Megillah, he speaks about Chel, Paras, and Madai, they're Partimim, they're nobles, they're not kings. At the end of the Megillah, chapter Yud, he speaks about Malchei, Madai, Uparas. It says all the stories of Mordechai, Haleim Ksuvim, Al Sefer Divrei Hayamim, LeMalchei Madai Uparas, the kings of Madai Uparas. Omar, and over here also he says first Paras and here first Madai. Omar Rav Asnu Yasnu Ba'adadi. Paras and Madai made a condition. Imi nein Malchi minayu eparchi. If the kings will be from us, from you will be the nobles. V'imi nayu Malchi, and if the kings will be from you, then minone parchi, then the governors, the nobles will come from our people. So the two psukim reflect this arrangement. At times, Madai sat on the throne and the Persians served as the governors, and at other times the situation was reversed. That's why he says, Chel, Paras, Umadai, Hapartimim, and then Lemalche, Madai, Uparas. So in other words, when the king will be from Paras, so then Madai gets Partimim, which are governors, and when the king is from Madai, so then Madai comes near the words Melachim. So the first pasuk is talking about when Achashverosh, the Persian, is the king. So therefore the Madai are the nobles. And then the last pasuk is other eras when the Melech was from Madai, and that's why Madai is near the word Malche. He shows off his richness. He didn't only take out the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, he donned the priestly garments that Nebuchadnezzar brought from Yerushalayim. Imagine Achashverosh was wearing the begadim of the Kohen Gadol. Ksiv hacha yikar tiferes gdulasai, uksiv hasem lechaved ulasifaris. This week's parsha, Parshas Tetzaveh, the begadim of Kohuna are described as tiferes. We do a gzeirah shaveh, which is divine, the first divine system of copy-paste. It says Yikar Tif'eres in the Megillah by the feast, Tif'eres in this week by the Big Day Kohuna. It was the same type of beauty. Achashverosh was wearing Big Day Kohuna. After 180 days, he makes a party for the people in Shushan. Ravu Shmuel. Chad Amar Melech, Pikeyachaya Chad Melech Tipishaya. One says he was brilliant, one says he was a fool. Chad Amar Melech Tipish, he was a fool. What Melech Pikech, Shaper over the car of Rechika Bereisha. Very smart. He first made a party for people living in the distant regions of his empire. Why? The Bnei Moshe Kolemas the Boy Mephias Lahu. The people who live in your city, whenever you want, you can appease them. Chashverosh understood you got to get the people who could create the rabble rousers. They're far away. How do you get them? So first 180 days, he made a party for all the ministers and servants in the entire region. Chel Paras Umadai, for everybody. L'chol Sarvadav. The end, the last 7 days, he made for his own, because the people among yourself, you can always, if you need, with the snap of a finger, you can get them. Manda Amar Tipishaya says the opposite. The Boyele Lekruve B'nei Moshe Bereisha. You always have to make sure the people in your city are kept close. The Imardu Behanach Hani Avakaima Ba'adeh. Because if the ones who are far will rebel against you, you'll have support of those who are around you. So it's two different perspectives. First perspective says, the people around you, your closest relationships you can always mend. Focus on the people who are distant. So he was a pikeach. The one who says it was a tippish says, no. You need to have a strong support system close around you, because the Rechaika may rebel against you, so you have protection from the people around you. Says the Gemara, Shalu Talmid of Reb Shimon ben Yochai. The students asked Reb Shimon ben Yochai, why did the enemies of the Jews, which means the Jews themselves, he just wants to speak nicely, why did the Jews themselves in that generation, why did they deserve this horrible decree of extermination? Amar lahem, he said, Imru atam, you say. He didn't want to say himself, you say. Amru loy, they said, Nishanenu misudasa shaloisei rasha. Because they enjoyed the Suda, the feast of that wicked person, Achashverosh. It says, Asa HaMelech l'chol ha'am. It was a Suda for the entire nation for 7 days. The whole nation included Jews and non-Jews. In other words, the Nenu Misudasai, the enjoyment. It's interesting, the Gemara doesn't say Achlu. They ate from the Suda. Because even if somebody eats treif, there's no chi of missa for eating treif. You're not allowed to eat treif. It's a lav, you're not allowed to eat treif food. But this is a whole different level. This is an inyan of kloya. The Mefarshim say, was it because there was blood and fat, and that's kares? That's what the Rosh Yosef says. But the Gemara doesn't say achlu. The Gemara says nenu misudasa shel. Some say it was because he was celebrating the end of the Beis Hamikdash era, that the Galus is going to be eternal and the Jewish people are never going to come back. Like we learned before, he took out the Kalim and he was wearing the Big Day Kohuna. So it was a whole different type of simcha. What's the difference between the Hanukkah party in the White House and this? According to some, it was kosher. So I think that's the kvetch nenu misudasa shalaisei rasha. In other words, if you have to go, go. The nenu misudasa means that this became their identity. Their hanoah in life became finally Achashverosh accepted us. Finally, we're not Jews. Finally, on the front page of the New York Times, there was a photo op between Achashverosh and the Jews. The Nehnu, they lost their touch as Jews. Nehnu misadasa shalaisei rasha. That was the issue. They forfeited the core of their identity. And as a result of that, they became subjected to the true anti-Semitism that lurks within. That lurks within. The Gemara finishes, Amar lahem, so he said, Imkenu b'Shushan yehargu b'chalaylam kulei lo yehargu. So it should have been only in the Jews of Shushan, not the Jews in the rest of the world. They weren't part of the meal. This is what Reb Shimon ben Yochai asks the students. Amru loy, they said, you're right, Emar Ato, so now you speak. Amar lahem ibnei sheishtachavu l'tzelem. Because they bow down to the pagan idols, yet in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar built a statue of gold and he had everybody bow down to it. If not, you get thrown into fire like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So because they bow down to the Tselem, this was it. Amru loy v'chimase ponem yesh bedavar. Does God really, how do they translate? V'chimase ponem yesh bedavar. Does God show favoritism? In other words, if this is really what happened, they worshipped Avodah Zarah, so why were they spared? Amar lahem hem lo yasu ela lefanim. It was only done superficially, meaning it was done outwardly. It was not sincere. They didn't really believe in Avodah Zarah. They were afraid of Nebuchadnezzar. So God also did it only on a superficial level, meaning he dealt with them outwardly. They were frightened as though they would be exterminated, but nothing ever happened. So in other words, it was they did it externally, and the Gzeira was external. V'hainu diksiv, the pasuk says in Eicha kilei ina milibai, vayage bnei ish, which means, for he does not afflict from his heart. As he says, the pasuk says, he does not willingly afflict or grieve the children of man, meaning if a person doesn't do it from his heart, only outwardly, so the grief is also outwardly, just to motivate him to repent, but not intending to harm him. There was never a kavana to chas v'shalom exterminate the Jews. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says it was all outwardly, externally, but it was not internal. Costumes on Purim. That's why we wear costumes, because it was all external. Rabbi Mansur said that's why we wear costumes, because it was outwardly. It was a mask. It was a mask. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you. What was the whole significance of the Shvayrish from the Chanetzah, all these people they have the Kailam, the Kleide. What was that? They believed that
I think it's very powerful because
He brings the repento here.
That what?
That when the Yidden took pleasure from the Suda, Achashverosh was taking pleasure in the Korban. So they were sort of taking pleasure also in the Korban.
The Hana from the Suda was a Hana from the Churban Beis Hamikdash, you say.
And then
It was like a simcha for the Churban Beis Hamikdash.
it was kind of a spite.
and he says that
It wasn't just a regular Hana. It wasn't just you went to a good party.
And he said that the Beis Hamikdash symbolized the meeting place for Hashem and His people, and so the people rejoicing in its destruction was like they're renouncing our special relationship with the Overseer.
Since the Beis Hamikdash is the place of the Shechina, so the enjoyment at this party was like renouncing their relationship with God.
That kind of subtle level. I mean,
Shali, was it a mechuma with God or was it a mechuma?
And I think that's the nenu. It says in Sfarim, the nenu is the reason that the Jews are one sheep surrounded by 70 lambs. But wolves. But we're alive because of our relationship with Hashem. Ani Hashem lo shanisi v'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisam. I don't die, you won't die. Nenu misudasai was like a new level of identity. It's like, we're good, we're accepted by the world. We don't need anything else. We don't need a Beis Hamikdash. Achashverosh is wearing the big day kohuna. Let's say you have to go to the party. But what's the nenu? What's the enjoyment? Go to a corner, shed a tear. He's wearing the big day kohuna. What are you taking pictures and putting it on your refrigerator and sending it into WhatsApp? Achashverosh called me his friend. Achashverosh said he likes me. Achashverosh suddenly accepted me. Nenu misudasai. Mainly, you have to go, you go. But he's wearing big dikuhuni. He's taking out the kalim of the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah? Even if it's kosher food. The word is not kosher, even if they ate kosher. The nenu, their hana became from what? From a different identity. So they lost that relationship. But Mele, the result was kloya. It wasn't even a punishment. The idea is it's not a punishment. It's almost like a natural consequence. There's one lamb surrounded by 70 wolves. They see the lamb without protection. What do? They pounce on it. What would happen if the IDF would go to Hawaii for a day of vacation? What would the 70 wolves do? They pounce on it. They always say if Syria goes on vacation and Egypt goes and Jordan goes and Gaza goes and Iran goes and Iraq goes, everyone leaves for a day. What will happen? Nothing. If IDF goes one, they pounce on the sheep. Nenu misudase, they redefine their identity. The hana, verstehst du? You know the Maisa with the Chafetz Chaim, huh? They say during the First World War, Chafetz Chaim went to visit some Jewish soldiers. The old story. So he saw one of his students in yeshiva. He was in the Russian army, and he was eating dinner. And for dinner they had chazer, they had pork, and he was sucking the bone. So the Chafetz Chaim started to cry. So he says, Rebbe, why are you crying? It's pikuach nefesh. If we don't eat, we die. And for life and death, you're allowed to eat chazer. You're allowed to eat treif. He says, yeah, aber was smakst du auf the beine? Was smakst du auf the beine? Why are you sucking out the marrow? What? You gotta eat. But was is the nenu? Go to the White House. Go to Shushan Abir's White House. Go to Rizah. What's the grace of WhatsApp that Achashverosh took a picture with Big Day Kohuna? You understand? It's a tragedy. It's not a song.
Would have said, wow, so the Shema, the Yid sucking out the last nutrients so that he can serve Hashem.
That's why he was not there that time, right?
That's why it's a story about the Chafetz Chaim, not Levitzka Baditchev.
I'm afraid somebody like Shvayrish made a bracha
Huh? If you make a bracha, make a bracha. You have to go. But what is the nenu? This became their hana. We were accepted by Achashverosh in the big day kahuna. You understand? In Germany, the Jews were more German than Germans, right? Huh? More German than the Germans. Huh?
At the time of Hanukkah, there was a lot of Hellenization. A lot of the Yidden were going that way. What about in the times right before?
Yeah, that's the point. It's not Hellenization, it's Persianization.
The way I see it,
Just 1 second.
they weren't so similar. They weren't so.
Here it's 9:45, right? 9:30 is in. Man kann sich stellen jetzt. Davenen Bariches ist nicht gefährlich.
9:30 is in the tent.
Kannst Davenen Bariches abschallen, nicht gefährlich.
How do you understand the place of Rabbi
How do you
Shmuel
say?
that he was not?
No.
You could see.
Who said? Your son said.
That
That one.
Oh, I don't understand. Because how can the same person, the same culture, you could say pekef or
Tippish.
tippish?
Very good.
You can't say.
Very good.
Yeah, Churchill could say he was good, but you can't say tippish. And
Very good.
interesting times.
Hear what he says? He says, how can the Gemara argue if he was a Pekeach or Tippish? Like, come on. You know, you know what they're looking at his actions, and one says he's brilliant, and one says he's the greatest moron in the world. Very good. So he says, look at Donald Trump.
I'm busy comparing this for the longest time.
Huh?
I'm busy comparing. I heard this from the
Chadam Pekeach, the greatest president who ever lived, and Chadamar, oy, 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 oy.
Rabbi saw yesterday. He was standing in CPAC, and he was talking, and it was like mini Mike is the whole big deal. He says, so Mike Bloomberg says that he can't win, and Trump, and then he goes, no, and he bows down. Mike Bloomberg says, this is mamish next level. This is the president of the free world, the leader of the free world, living breed.
So I'm saying, you see Achashverosh, the same action, and this one says, Gewaldike Chachma, he's brilliant, his strategy, he knows his target, and this one says he's a tippish. But I just see it also, I would just say that in life you see the same thing also. Huh? No, you see people, yeah, they spend a lot of time conquering what's outside of them. They don't cultivate the internal relationships because they say there's always time. There's always time for it. The people, right? Ask anybody, if your kids need you, will you be here for them? Of course, yeah. But he has an appointment somewhere, 7 o'clock. That customer he's going to lose. Poel Mamish, very often he loses the home front because everything is on the outside. That yeah, and that's the second shit. The second shit is that if your inner core is not powerful, don't run to the outside, because when the outside rebels, you're going to be left alone. You have to take care of your own. Huh? What's pikchus and what's the target? The first thing, the target, go to the world, go get the world. Around you, you'll already take care of. Just make sure. Then you need, because they're far away and you got to get them. And the other shitta says, no. The second shitta doesn't work that way. The core has to be powerful, and then like ripple effects. Huh? Yeah. The home front has to be solid. If the home front is not solid, you could be left with nothing. Because you're reaching far away. Either you'll get it or you don't get it. And if you get it, meilen. If you don't, was bist du geblieben?
Robin Shmuel, both MS Mamish.
Huh?
MS Mamish.
Yeah, I'm saying it's interesting, two perspectives.
It was what your brother made, because was speaking about the Fabringan, about defense and offense.
Defense and offense, yeah.
Somebody wrote a nice text message that he has 29,000 followers on Twitter, he has 15,000 followers on Facebook, 60,000 friends on LinkedIn, and when he was in the hospital, nobody was there, only his wife and kids.
Yeah.
Very good.
I saw the Yidden more, I visioned the Yidden more in Purim and Shushan. Hanukkah was another 300 years later. So I'm envisioning and read it like Hanukkah was worse, the people were worse. In Shushan, it wasn't that they were so Hellenized, so Persianized. Maybe they were, but more that their Yiddishkeit was schwach, like real schwach. Like they were just real schwach Yiddishkeit. I kind of envision the Suda of Achashverosh, sort of like a lot of goyim there, and then like a group, stop, a group like sort of like that. Like they were, but weak, but not
I hear.
weak in their Yiddishkeit, like still separate, but weak.
Nenu misudase shaloi seirasha. Nenu. Not achlu, nenu. They enjoyed the Suda. Their source of enjoyment became Sudasa Shal Oisei Rasha. Mele, you have to go. Pikuach Nefesh, you have to go. The king says, come. But the Charasha, what's the Hana? What is the Hana? But that's not an Isser Missa. That's the question. There's no Isser Missa for eating treif. The Mefarshim say, some want to even say he served blood there. Blood is chorus. He served chaylev because it's a shred of zach. But it doesn't say achlu, it says nenu.
No, your mamas gave him their own wine.
And some say kirtzain ish v'ish that he made Mordechai the butler. Mordechai served. It was Rav Landau's hechsher. Rav Mordechai's hechsher.
Yeah, he didn't even need a hechsher because the Machshar line.
Atazai. The Sanhedrin was there. Supervision. Badatz. The best wine. Kosher sushi. Some say it was treif, but some say it wasn't treif. It was kosher food because he wanted everybody to be happy. But the spirit of the Suda was a celebration of Churban Beis Hamikdash, and the spirit of the Suda was Ishtachavu L'Tzelem. The two answers in the Gemara, according to this, are not separate. Ishtachavu L'Tzelem and Nenem Zalzal are very similar. Nenem Misadasa Shaloi Rasha means they forfeited their identity as Jews. Their simcha in life came from what? The Goyim accepted us. The Russia smiles to us. They lost their pride. We got there, yeah. The Shivim Za'evim are our best friends. Yeah. We got rid of the Jewish nose. We got rid of, we don't need a Beis HaMikdash anymore. We're not special, we're not different. We're not an Am Sgula. You could throw the tefillin into the Atlantic, intermarry the Persians, and finally the world would be at peace. It's very, you know how many millions of Jews were tempted by this in history? And you can't blame them. It happened in Russia with communism and socialism. It happened in Germany. It happened in Spain. And it happened in Persia. Huh? Yeah. Was it the Venapach? There's a beautiful marsha, Moededike marsha, I'll tell you. Baba Basra Ayin Gimel. The Gemara says that Rabbi Bar Chana tells a story. He went on a boat, and the boat was tumultuous. The water was terribly tumultuous. The thing is on? Could stay Adirah, but let people in. It's fine. The Baba Basra and Gimel, Rabbi Bar Chana tells a story. He was on a boat in the ocean or the sea, and it was so turbulent. You know, people get seasick and nauseous, and there was no destination. They didn't see the shore. They didn't see any land. And people were desperate. It was horrible in the boat. And what happened? Suddenly they came across what looked like a beautiful island. They said, let's get off the boat. They got on the boat, and the island had earth on it, and grass on it, and they said, let's do a barbecue. And they gathered wood, and they lit a fire, and they grill ala eish, and they started to barbecue meat and fish or chicken, whatever it was, and enjoy a delicious meal. He said, but what looked like an island was really a large whale. And the whale started to get hot, the barbecue, and he wanted to scratch his back. How does a fish scratch his back? He makes a hakofe, v'naprichu. So he says the island turns over, and we all are hurled into the water, to the sea. He says, and if not for the boat that was close nearby, I wouldn't be here to tell the story. That's the mice. So listen what the Maharsha says. Maharsha says, Adar is Mazel Dogim. The zodiac of the month of Adar is fiscal, fish. Okay? The Jews are on a journey. They're in a boat. Itaka says in Zohar that the guf is a svina. The neshama comes into a svina. And we go in water. We go in the water. Mayim Rabim. A journey. The journey from Har Sinai till Mashiach. But it's turbulent. Galus is tough. And they don't see a destination. They don't see the Geula coming. And then they see a beautiful island. Achashverosh, Atzelem, Asuda. Beis HaMikdash is over. We're good. We're accepted. Kirtzoynish v'yish. Freedom of religion. We let you be. You can assimilate. We like you. We love you. Come to my feast. Forget the boat. Forget the Jewish journey. And then they start creating a barbecue. He says, but at some point, the whale is v'napachu. You dirty Jews, you think you're accepted, you're a danger to society. We'll destroy you. The same Achashverosh. You were my best friend. A Haman came and suddenly I'm your worst enemy. And he says, if not for the boat being close by, he says, Mordechai and Esther stayed on the boat. If not for the boat being close by, we would have all drowned. So the Maharsha says. Huh? He teaches the Gemara, Baba Basra, Daf Ayin Gimel.
It's like a heilige Rabbach, that they went out to the island, they were comfortable, they were good. And all of a sudden, they turned around, it says the Gav is the wave, the Rik,
Yeah. 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 Lekutei Maharan Ayin Gimel, yeah? Ayin Gimel, huh?
What is this?
Reb Nachman of Breslov, Lekutei Maharan Ayin Gimel, dachtach, yeah.
Flipped over.
Yeah.
This is something, you can use it as a Tanya filler, but it's much
Yeah. Simen Ayin Gimel, Lekutei Maharan.
nice, a tip of the piece.
I think that my old Rusa taught me, Bir Maim Chaim said that when it says Hamelech Achashverosh woke up in the middle of the night, it's a mashal.
Yeah.
That the Eibishter
Yeah.
because he saw that the Yidden were fasting on Pesach.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
"Whoa,
Yeah.
this has gone too
Yeah.
far."
Yeah. Balayla hu nada dashnas hamelech, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that also has to do with perspective, as we spoke about yesterday. Gav, you sit in the back, you don't see anything, you just see it's Chadai, the same thing. You sit in the same
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Huh?
Fun to learn on Geschmack and Kuta Maharan. One time I was here, I would
That's-
teach.
Yeah. Okay, so you got the whole history, the Persians, the Babylonians, huh?
Excellent. This should be like a week-long or 2-week-long class in Cheder sometime, like Geschmack history class. People would go up with some